And what we're going to talk about today is about creating loyalty. And creating loyalty by doing a simple thing and doing it well. What we're going to be doing together is looking at what I call the future of online marketing. There is very little point for all of us in this room to try and practice online marketing using tasks and activities that we've been doing since 2011. The likelihood is, by the time you understand those tasks, because you've read a recent blog entry or because you've been copying the competition, you'll be out of date, you'll be out of pace with what your customers want. Online marketing will give you the impression you're doing good work whilst you're wasting your time. And it happens to all of us. We get charmed. I use charm in this proper sense by the website. We get charmed by the blog, by the Twitter account, by the Facebook page, by the LinkedIn account, by MailChimp and so on. And all these tools are claiming our time. Since we are in the Tides and Cinema, I'll be using a lot of film analogies today. I can with that. And to me, it reminds me of the little shop of horror. You keep feeding this beast called online marketing, and it gets bigger because more options are given to us. And we need to be very, very careful, because what I can see often is that we don't get a fair return on efforts, all of us in marketing or using marketing support function. And we need to kind of reclaim our time, and that's what we do with a masterclass. What are people really looking for here? And when we talk about business, and what Google would suggest to us is that what people are looking for is confirmation that what we say about ourselves is indeed correct. They did a survey of last year to US searchers, so we need to be careful about some of the cultural differences. And they asked a simple question saying, in addition to the information on the particular website you've been visiting, how many additional pages would you consult to verify that this information is indeed correct? There is nothing to be worried about. And depending on the sector you operate in, it was anything between 12 and 25 additional pages would be consulted to check that our claims as businesses is indeed correct. And that's really quite important. And of course, people can. There's so much information out there. And we need to be looking at really a validation form of promotion now, as opposed to just claiming about the things that we do. We're using what we call the power of others, which we'll cover extensively for you in the SEO and social media masterclass. So on the basis of wanting to search, we need to kind of accept that we've moved to a culture of anywhere, anytime. If you'll forgive the verbal gymnastics there on the subject, but your customers don't have to wait to be back in the office at 9 o'clock to start to access the internet. They don't have to wait to necessarily be at home. There's been an increase, some of you will have seen it, of people checking messages whilst at the traffic light. I'm not sure what's so important that they have to check there and then, but you will see, and if you don't trust me, check today when you leave. Don't do it yourself, of course, not allowed. But if someone is stuck at the traffic light, they will be checking their Twitter account. And there's some interesting behavior there. But I want to draw your attention to the very last stat, which is about the preferred activity. And we're seeing here that the consumption of video and media content is a preferred activity when it comes to using mobile devices. So, as businesses, we need to ask the questions, are we doing enough to match that preference? Are we doing enough to increase maybe the size of photography on our websites to begin with? Are we doing enough to plan video content so that in good time we are matching that preference? Because what we need to understand is that if we don't match a preference of our customers now and in the future, we're going to become invisible. Either because the search activities won't showcase our visibility, or quite simply, there will be no validations about our business and our content moving forward, the two forces that we're playing to. So the next thing that leads me on to is to let you know, once and for all, we have the data, but the UK in Europe is the #1 nation in terms of consuming video content. There's different reasons for that, both access to video content, access to broadband connectivity and so on. But there's certainly a huge, huge appetite. YouTube, I would suggest to you within 2 years, will overtake Google as the most used search engine online. Now, why should we care? Why should we be concerned as businesses about online video? Well, it's all to do with this idea of building relationship, trust, and loyalty. And when I hear stats, and I always use the smallest figures because I'm always worried about things that are being inflated, when I hear that someone watching a video will be 52% more confident to buy from my business, I've got to pay attention because I'm hearing conversion rates. The efforts to write an article using words only, or the efforts to create a video, would give me more results. I've got to be paying attention to this, in particular if the mobile device is going to take over. Some surveys was done in the UK about how many of the percentage of people using the internet, how many were using mobile phones. In 2012, it was 26%. 2013, it was 40%. It's a staggering growth, really. And I can't imagine what the figure would be like in 2016, but it should be very high again. So we're back to behavior. The last behavior, as I move on to look at the future of online marketing, is actually this one, is that we are no longer, as businesses, we no longer have the monopoly of being the sole content creators on the internet. If I take you back to just 10 years, you really had to be in business to have the website, have the blog, and do all those things because cost of technology and access and so on. But now your customers are content creators too. In fact, I could argue that the very tools that you want to use to appeal to them, to attract their attention, could work against you. I could suggest to you, and I mean this only to give you a measure of the level of activity, that in 1 week, somebody who is active on a personal Facebook account could create more content in 1 week than we would for our business in 1 month. By the amount of writing, the amount of photography, the amount of videos they'll be publishing. And what that creates is an ability to distinguish good, bad, and ugly content. Or I would suggest relevant and irrelevant content. We also have a situation where the tools used to access, the social networks, or in our world, social media and social media marketing, are also used to access personal information or to keep in touch with personal contacts. I've got some stats there which I've gathered for you. This graph is not very, very clear, but it's showing you the breakdown between accessing the social network via a mobile phone and accessing via a desktop. I think that the desktop is still, or the laptop I would suggest to you, is still a reasonably safe environment. There'll be less distraction from friends and family. But the mobile phone is not going to be a great tool for us in business to get their attention. And you can see some of the variations there. Very interesting to see, for example, that LinkedIn still dominates its activity on the desktop. You need to understand this behavior and understand that, for example, if this is US, so we need to be careful about cultural differences, but if 70% of people use Facebook on a mobile phone, should we be that concerned about what it looks like on the desktop? Should we not to worry more about what it looks like on a mobile phone and change, for example, the way the header picture is laid out? Should we change, for example, the way the words are coming out? Maybe perhaps something to think about around behavior. And to this day, and I don't think it's going to change soon, your website is still by far the most important online marketing tool you're going to have. And you should be looking after it very well for it to look after you. And finally, when we move to the push, this would be your retention tool to get repeat business, to get referrals. And this is going to follow the logic of a customer who's going to learn about you and learn to trust you over time. And I think that this is a lot more helpful to prepare us for the future. Therefore, I have 2 questions for you today. I'm not asking you to answer them today by any means, but certainly for you to start to think about those. And those 2 questions are as follow. What is, for your business, a sensible 2014 recruitment campaign? I use the term campaign because I want you to think about offline activities as well, but there will be a series of communications activities and tasks that will be dedicated to recruiting new customers. But there is another facet of your activities online, which won't be the same. It will be the same tools, but there are different content, different messages, which will be to retain your customers and to do what I call the 2014 retention campaign. And the slight error in judgment that I've made, back in the years and so on, is that we were always focused on recruiting new. That was always the way we kind of gauge our value and contribution to the business. But we need to be much, much better now at also retention. What are you going to do to make sure that people stay with you for years to come? How are you going to add value to their day? How is it going to be different? And you want to make sure that it is different because even though I suspect Bill Gates didn't fully understand what he meant that day in '96 when he said content is king, there is no longer a one-size-fits-all. You can no longer, if you like, have a message on Twitter that can both recruit and retain. It doesn't work like that.